Hello. This video has been coming a long time. This video isn't particularly a video about witchcraft. This is a video morely about divinity, about Godhead, about spirituality. And I often have a lot of people that tend to talk in terms of God. And they say, well, do you believe in God? And I'm like, well, the divine, Godhead, the gods. Yeah, you could say that. Yes, I do. And people say, well, why? If God existed, why would all this terrible shit happen in the world? And I think what a lot of people tend to forget is most people look from the perspective of God on an Abrahamic level, on the level of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. The idea that God cares, the idea that the divinity and Godhead cares about humanity, particular to Christianity and Islam. Judaism, there's some blurred lines there. But particularly to Christianity and Islam, that there is this this idea that, if you accept Godhead in this form, then Godhead will love you and it will, be there for you and provide for you. And people say, well, why do all these terrible things happen? And I think the Abrahamic religion, like the religions of the Abrahamic tribes, aren't the only religions in the world that view deity. If you look at the ancient people, the the ancient tribes of Britain, a lot of the time when people worked with gods, when people worked with deities, according to a lot of archaeologists, it tend to be a case of, right, if we give you this, you're going to leave us the fuck alone. If we give you this, you're not going to hurt anyone from our clan, from our tribe, from our kin. And it was very much a sort of, if we do this for you, could you either do this for us or... And it was a very transactional thing. A lot of the time, supposedly, it was meant to be a very transactional thing. Who's going to know for sure? Because those times were a very long time ago. But I can definitely relate to that. That if you work with deity, then a deity will work with you. It's not just automatically you're born and, oh my God, you're a human being, you're so amazing, and I'm going to love you and care for you straight away. I don't believe that. I'm a polytheist, ultimately. I am a polytheist and I am an animist. I believe in energy and the divine in everything. But I believe that the divine has many facets. I believe the divine has many faces. And we, as different cultures and societies and civilizations, associate those faces of God with what we as a culture can only associate with. So, for instance, the Morrigan, people associate Morrigan as crows, and the crows would pick at the dead, the dead flesh from the battlefield, and would take and take the warriors to the other world, to their domain. And yeah, you think about that then, but then if you think about other guises of godheads that are psychopomps, that are carriers of the dead, you think about it in terms of the different cultures. So, for instance, in Ireland, there's going to be crows. In Northern Europe, there's going to be crows. And of course, crows pick flesh and are associated with warriors and well, not necessarily warriors, but Godhead. Odin was a psychopomp. The crows were said to pick the flesh and again travel travel the warriors to Valhalla. So there's different facets and faces of God that people associate with. And I think you have to bear with me because this is this is intricate. This is my thought pattern. But we can only associate things with the culture that we are surrounded by society, and by different things that we associated with. I believe that our minds can't stretch further to a certain level, and I believe that we can only associate Godhead. For instance, one of my best friends put it well, Dylan, my lizard, my bearded dragon. All she knows is me and Josh. Like, that is her world. That tank is her world, and this bedroom is her world, and she runs around in it. And she might go out to the living room, but beyond that, she doesn't know any different. She can't comprehend, she can't understand anymore. And maybe to her, me and Josh may be God. If you think about it in that context, I'm not comparing the human mind to a bearded dragon's, but kind of sort of am, actually. Fuck it. So if you think about it like that, it makes perfect sense. And the other thing is, if you look at a lot of ancient religions, the gods were dicks. Like sometimes some of the gods were dicks. Like I am a polytheist, I am a pagan, I class myself as a pagan, well, dual faith, but I would class myself also as a pagan. And you know, if you look in ancient stories, the gods punished people. They punished people. They smited people. They went heavily on the smiting in some stories. Some of the gods were nasty and could be nasty, but then they could also have a different side to them. It's neutrality. Whereas in a lot of, particularly the Abrahamic religions, and I'm not calling it at all, but you do see this side of God that is like, I care about all humans. Um, and, you know, there are instances, of course, where that does contradict itself. If you look at Yahweh in terms of the Old Testament version, the Jewish God was scary. Jewish God was a dick. He was completely a dick. You know, trying to get someone to sacrifice their son as a test and be like, oh no, it's fine now. You don't have to kill him, but I was just seeing if you loved me. You know, it's a bit like, what the hell? So there are still contradictions and cross sections with that. But the point of it is that what makes humanity, what makes human beings out of all the different species on the planet, birds, insects, reptiles, other mammals, you know, rodents, what plant life, trees, you know, what makes crustaceans, fish, what makes humanity that important that they have to have an allocated God to look after them? If you look at humanity and you look at, quite frankly, the disgusting, appalling amount of damage it does to the earth, you look how much other species suffer. And it's even things within our food, such as palm oil. That is horrific what it does to the wildlife. It's absolutely appalling. When people hunt animals, I have no problem with hunting an animal if you're going to eat the meat. If you're just going to hunt an animal for sport, then it's pretty cuntish. It's pretty out of order. You know, when people, I don't even eat meat, but I have, you know, if you're going to hunt to have meat, that's fine. You know, but my point is, humanity and the awful shit that humanity does to each other, the quite frankly horrific acts of violence and hurt and hate that it causes on each other. If I was a god, I'd be like, fuck you guys, I'm not looking after you, I'm going to look after the animals. You know, at least some of them don't pretend to be assholes, they can just be assholes, you know. But it's the amount of awful shit that humanity has done to other beings around it, and the amount of damage it has inflicted upon the earth. Our mountains, our forests, our rainforests, and they're not even ours, the rainforests, the mountains, all these things, because of climate change, are at such a high risk. We now are in the birth to death ratio in population is outweighing, like the birth ratio is outweighing. The world is said to be made for 2.5 billion people. We currently have 8.5 billion human beings in the world, and it is just going up. The birth ratio outweighs the death ratio. We are disgustingly overpopulated, and we are causing so much damage, if not more than ever now, on the earth and other species. And it's for me, it's the idea that humanity feels it's that important it's that important that it needs an allocated place to go after it dies, and then has the cheek to say, well, you know, other animals don't have souls. I mean, what the fuck is all that about? If you're an animist, you'll just be like, that's weird shit. But my point is, what makes humanity so special that a god has to look down and has to care after humanity? It doesn't. But at the same time, I see Godhead, I see the divine in everything. I see the gods in the trees, I see the gods in the sunset, in the stars, in fire. I see it in streams, in lakes, in rivers. I see it in inspiration when you see a dancer get lost within their art and their craft. I see that. I see Godhead. I see pure inspiration. And I have moments, very intense moments, where I regularly feel Godhead, I regularly feel the divine or the gods. whatever you want to say. And, I wouldn't, if somebody is a Christian, if somebody is a Muslim, if somebody is a Jew and has that Abrahamic thought form of God, that's fine. But what I am saying to that argument is that there have been different beliefs far longer than Abrahamic tribes. Abrahamic belief is not the be all and end all of religion. And I think if you're going to say, well, if God cared, then this wouldn't happen, you need to look outside the scope. Don't just look within the three spheres of the belief of the Abrahamic tribes. And I think it's not to say that anyone that practices an Abrahamic religion is wrong. That's ridiculous. Who am I to say that somebody's interpretation and belief of God is wrong? Who am I to say that? But my point is, if you are going to argue about somebody believing in Godhead and say, well, if all this awful stuff happens, why would this happen? Then you kind of need to look outside the scope and look at a lot older and ancient sources where the gods did hurt people, they did smite people, they weren't benevolent and constantly all loving. They could be cruel. The gods could be cruel, they could smite, they could kill people, and there was neutrality. It wasn't just good, bad. And particularly with Abrahamic religion, there is this distinction between good, bad, and you need to get out of that. You need to get out of that mindset. In older beliefs, in more ancient beliefs, the idea of good and bad didn't particularly exist. It was neutral. It was neutrality. It was nothing is nothing is black, nothing is white. Everything is grey. All is grey in this world. And for me, with Godhead, that's how I feel. And particularly with morals and ethics and stuff like that, if you look at things in just a black-white, and a lot of us tend to do this, particularly with God going in from religion to politics now, but you have people that go into certain, get very pent up with politics, particularly now what's happening in the world. But, these again, this thought form of this is right and this is wrong, and this is both sides of the spectrum, by the way. I'm not just saying one particular side, but if you think about it in terms of this, that's an Abrahamic hang-up. That's an hang-up of Abrahamic beliefs, because it's that good bad. There's no in-betweenness. And I think it's important when you look at older beliefs, you look at more ancient religions, you see there's not good bad, there's not loving cruel. It was blurred. A lot of these things were blurred lines, and I think particularly with the divine and with Godhead, that happens quite a lot. This is personal view, and your mind probably must feel like, I've like rammed like a 10-foot dildo in and just scrambled it a bit and then whipped it out. But it's my personal beliefs in Godhead, and I've had a couple of people ask me about it, and this isn't witchcraft. It's just personal beliefs. It's more spirituality. But it's not to say that anybody who, again, has an Abrahamic religion is wrong, because who am I to say? Who am I to say that my way that I work with Godhead, with the divine, is purely right? It's not. It's, as Andrew Chumley said, if someone knocks and the gods answer, who am I to challenge the integrity of their path? And I fully believe that. As long as it doesn't hurt anybody, and as long as you realise that everybody has a different idea of Godhead, because everybody is so different. Everybody will find things that they connect to spiritually. And that's kind of the beauty of the world. All is grey.